This tutorial covers sales, particularly salesperson activities, land ownership, and land titles information.
So now that we have looked at the industry in general, let's look at each of the two different departments of a real estate agency. So we'll start with sales. Sales can be a very tough industry, but can also be a very rewarding one. Some of the duties of a salesperson would include sourcing and obtaining new sale listings, providing market appraisals, coordinating marketing activities, inspecting properties for sale, negotiation processes, and organising contracts. There are different types of land ownership for sales in Australia. You have Crown land, which includes land that is reserved for public purposes or vacant. Crown land is basically owned by the government. Now, all land in Australia is considered Crown land. When you do a title search on a property, you will always see under the interest section of the title that it says rights and interest reserved by the Crown. So basically what this means is even if you purchase a house, a freehold house, you have no mortgage on it. If the government decides that they want to put an airport in your suburb, what they can do is resume the land, which means they can take it back at any stage. So of course they have to pay you a fair market price for the land, but do you ever actually really own land outright in Australia? There's a big question mark on that. You also have freehold, so owned outright or fee simple is another word for it. So I know it just said that you don't ever actually own land in Australia, but freehold, the definition of that is that you own it outright, although you still have rights and interest reserved by the Crown, even under a freehold property. Leasehold is temporary rights. So, for example, if you were to purchase property in Canberra, you purchase a 99-year leasehold over the property. A life estate, so granted ownership for a duration of a person's life. So it might be that parents would like to pass on property to children and transfer the title over onto them. However, they may have a life estate in the property, which basically means they can remain in the property until such time as they were to pass away, and then it will revert to the other owner. Tenants in common and joint tenants are different forms of ownership of property. So if you were to purchase a property as joint tenants, you own the interest together, so equal undivided shares. This is more common with husband and wife who are purchasing property together. So they have a 50-50 share. If one person was to pass away, then the ownership rights will automatically go to the other person without anything else needing to occur. However, if you were to purchase tenants in common, this might be a more common scenario if family members are purchasing property together or friends are purchasing property together. It doesn't need to be equal shares. So owners of one property which is split into shares, they can sell their own share or will it to another person upon their death. So I might own 60% and somebody else might own 40%. If I choose that I want to get out of my 60% share, I could leave that share to my children, or I could sell it to somebody else. So this is where you might see part sales that come up in your search results when you're looking at doing appraisals on sale properties. Normally in a tenants in common situation, there may be a separate agreement in which the two owners will have an agreement that says if one person wants to get out, they'll give first purchasing rights to the other owner. And the last one here on the list is foreign ownership. So should notify the government and get prior approval to acquiring interest in certain types of real estate. So buying, agreeing to enter into a lease, or financing or profit sharing arrangements. It's really important that if you are dealing with somebody from overseas who's wanting to purchase property, that they have the proper approvals to be able to purchase in Australia. So they'll need to apply to the Foreign Investment Review Board to get those proper approvals. Now, you shouldn't be entering into conversations with them about their eligibility requirements because there can be a range of factors that may change this. So it's best to refer them on to the correct authority, as you would with anything with people wanting financial advice or insurance advice. You refer them to the appropriate authorities to get the accurate and correct information. It's important when going to an appraisal that a title search is conducted prior to inspecting the property. You need to be able to verify ownership, land details, and also any material facts that may be affecting the property, so such as easements or covenants. So material fact is something that would affect a purchaser's decision to buy a house. So for example, if a property had an easement that was listed on the title that was running across the backyard, which meant that you couldn't build a permanent structure, that could be a material fact for a buyer. If a buyer is looking at purchasing a house and they want to put a pool in future and they can't do that, then that's obviously going to affect their decision to purchase the house. So you need to find out these things prior to going out to do an appraisal. For the purposes of land ownership, land can include earth, water and airspace. You need to do a title search. The title search will show the name of the registered owners, so this is the true and accurate and outright ownership that is provided on a title search. The real property description, which is a lot, survey plan and number, and any other current information about the lot, so caveats, easements, rights of way, covenants and mortgages. So let's have a look at an example of a title search now. Okay, so you have the land, lot 21 and deposited plan numbers. This is obviously a fake title search, but they'll look very similar to this. Local government area and the parish. You have the name of the owners here and how they have purchased, so joint tenants, so that would be 50-50 shares, undivided. And you also have an easement here, which is a right of way, and a mortgage, of course, will be noted on a title as well, because it's a form of restriction, which means that the mortgage would need to be paid out prior to this title being transferred to another buyer. So an encumbrance is basically a form of restriction.